Yeah. So, you know, I we have structural problems just being born into our lives. The first one is an evolutionary mismatch. So we evolved to perfectly match the hunter gatherer environment,
Sure.
but our society has advanced so far from that so quickly while our bodies have not
Sure.
made the appropriate adaptation. So, whatever we're dealing with in our day, in our lives, be it a bill we're worried about paying, a conflict with somebody in our lives, a deadline that we have to do, any of these things, we have one stress response that mobilizes for all of those, even though the fight or flight response is not appropriate for most of the stresses in our lives.
Hmm.
So we're continually mobilizing. And, from your longevity perspective, the consequences of the mobilization of the body and the using of uh, resources and having to replenish those resources. So we activate the nervous system, but how many stimuli in our day, in our lives, trigger safety, tell us we're okay, we can relax?
Right.
Almost none. So this creates the first mismatch in which we're continually activating our stress response, our nervous system, and not recovering with the parasympathetic, the recovery branch.
That's right.
We've
It's an
already
excellent point.
we've already talked about the developmental mismatch where we learned lessons as a child that don't serve us as adults.
Hmm.
Messages unintentionally um, given to us by our family and
That's right.
surroundings, um, and
Yeah.
so more we may grow up in an environment that's dangerous, and so as an adult we start out our day expecting something to go wrong, and so we start out our day mobilizing our stress response.
Hmm.
And then finally, another interesting aspect to this imbalance is that if you think about all of the successes in your life, I guarantee that all or most were associated with stress. So our
Sure.
brains have put those two things together.
Hmm.
It, the stress didn't necessarily cause the success, but because our brains put those things together, we
Yep.
literally are adapted to want to find stresses in our lives. So all of those things create this mismatch and imbalance between the two branches of our nervous system. And
Yep.
resilience is about finding the way to keep those in a place of balance.
Right. So I agree with you. I think for me, a lot of it devolves down to this question of safety, right?
Mhm.
And even the things that we were instructed by our families about what's safe, what's not safe, what we're supposed to do, what we're not supposed to do, all around a sense of safety or a sense of conformity. Um, and I think, when you think about it, anxiety, stress, even to some extent, depression, I think anger for sure, frustration, and even greed, I think in many respects, boils down to people not feeling safe. And so when they don't feel safe, then they feel empowered to take it out on somebody else, to act aggressively, to do lots of different things. And um, I think one of the big misconceptions in life that I learned is that there's nothing external to us that can ever make us feel safe. So I don't care where you went to school, who your family is, how much money you make or have, what country you live in. I mean, if history's taught us anything, it's that everything can be taken away, right? There's nobody's immune to that. Even health can be taken away, right? So then it becomes a psycho-spiritual question of actually how do you give yourself safety in any circumstance? Because when
Mhm.
you actually crack that code, then you can wake up calm every morning,
Mhm.
right? Knowing that you're safe, right?
Mhm.
If your safety depends on things going right or things happening or whatever, that's a no-win proposition as far as I can tell, right?
Mhm.
I mean, it's going to fall apart at some point. So
Well,
anyway,
I definitely agree that safety is an important component here. In fact, whenever I tell people to practice a relaxation exercise, I have them start out by saying that right now I'm safe, and for the next 15 minutes, when I do this relaxation, I'm safe. I can let down my guard.
Yeah.
And
Nice.
I ask people to look in their day, in their lives, for zones of safety, times and places where they
Nice.
can say, right here, right now, I'm safe.
Yeah.
And in particular, before they sit down to a meal, I ask them to go into a place of safety and I'm safe for the next time that I'm going to eat this meal because, so much of the GI problems,
Sure.
gastrointestinal problems are because people are sitting down to eat, which
Right.
involves digestion while they are feeling stressed and focusing on a problem, which tends to shut down the digestive system. So,
Right.
um, yes, safety is very important. It is what allows us to engage that recovery parasympathetic response.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, I tell people, your body has two choices. It can go into defend and protect or heal and maintain. And
Yeah.
so we want to find as much of our day, of our lives, that we can say, I'm safe, so I can let down my guard and go into heal and maintain.
Yeah. I agree with that completely. And I think you can get to the point, we talk about meditation or mindfulness, which is really what you're talking about here. If you're going to sit down before a meal or you're going to sit down for 15 minutes and give yourself safety in that moment, it's really an act of mindfulness that we're talking about on some level, right? And then you kind of feel into that safety. Again, I think experiences of these things are so transformative. I mean, things got wired, imprinted into our brains through experiences, right? And I think in order to rewrite that code, we can cognitively think about it, but I think it's experiences actually help us rewrite that code to where we actually do become safe, right? So I think cognition is enough of saying, okay, I need to go have this experience. And so what you're talking about now is your people actually giving themselves this sense of safety so they can experience that, right? And then if you do that repetitively, you start to overwrite the software and you start to rewrite the code to where you can then actually start to move into that place of feeling safe, right? And so I think that's very powerful. I think meditation can definitely help with that. So I think if you're listening to this and you're starting a meditation practice or doing it, I think one of the key elements is to enable yourself to go into this place of just absolute safety. I am connected. This is the universe. What an amazing place. I feel so connected to love and goodness here. It's like when you go to that space, it's like you are safe. Even if a meteor hits, like I'm fine, right? So
Mhm.
on to the next thing. So yeah.